Hey friends! In this lesson, I'm going to do a quick rundown of several good ways to gather and organize your ideas. The most important part of an inspired remodel is to have great ideas. But a close second is to keep those ideas organized in a way that works for you and your team, be that your family, your designer, or the people who will help you build it. Having ideas first, then keeping track of them is the name of the game here. I'm going to address several methods and tools you can use to accomplish this, but at the end of the day, there isn't a universally right system. There's a right system for you. So whether you choose to write every idea out longhand in a notebook, create a shareable spreadsheet and notes document online, or use a project-specific planning app, the most important thing is that you have a system you like. We'll start with the gathering ideas component. Where do you go for your inspiration right now? Ideas for improving your mid-century home are all around you, both in the real world and on the internet. You might be inspired by someone's front door as you go for a walk in the neighborhood, or as you scroll through your Pinterest feed. You might see a cozy reading nook in a nearby cafe, or find an image of one on Instagram. Whenever inspiration strikes, capture it. Grab your notebook or smartphone and get it recorded. To get you started, here are a few more places you can go through me to seek inspiration. If you haven't already downloaded my resources checklist, I highly recommend that you have a look. I have recently updated it to 56 items, including my favorite overview articles on mid-century design across the internet, books on the history of mid-century modern, and design advice for home remodelers, the best websites, magazines, and blogs to follow, plus my most commonly cited suppliers of mid-mod appropriate furniture, hardware, and decor items. It will keep you going for quite a while. Check out the link below this video. Likewise, if you're feeling stumped for ideas, check the link below the video for my mid-century style quiz. Taking it will help you figure out where you fall on the spectrum from vintage-loving preservationist to person who just wants to sprinkle a few mid-century details through an otherwise modern home. The result of your quiz comes with a specialized design guide that gives you an overview of your style, plus a list of Instagram accounts and custom Pinterest board to get you started finding more ideas that should suit you well. It doesn't matter whether you stick to a completely old-school method of buying ideas magazines and tearing out or post-it marking pages, or if you use a modern app like Pinterest or even Houzz to gather and sort your ideas. What does matter is that you gather a wide range of them, organize them, and that you pay close attention to what exactly is drawing you to each image you collect. I'm going to focus on Pinterest as a design tool. It is my preferred way of gathering and sharing image inspirations. I use it to plan my own projects and for each and every custom design job I take on. However, you can use the same principles to gather and organize your ideas regardless of which medium you prefer. I was trained to see Pinterest as an architect's secret weapon by a former design firm. Before working there, I had used it to exchange a few knitting and quilting ideas with friends, and I knew someone else who used it to store recipes. But in starting with that firm, I saw that each project began with a Pinterest board that was added to by myself and my colleagues there and the client. This board captured annotated ideas from other similar projects or totally different applications that might shine a new light on the work. Some images captured material or a building element, others simply evoked an emotion. By the way, if you're a mood board person, you can also use Pinterest to create one of those for your project. For your home remodel, I recommend that you make an overall board to describe the general feel and scope of the project, then break it down into subsections devoted to each room or space that you want to work on, and even into materials, colors, or furnishing options for those spaces. Pinterest is more than an image storage tool, though. It's also a search engine. You can use it to dig for detailed ideas or to scroll through strings of related images. Use its smart algorithm to teach it how to show you the kind of inspiration you're looking for. With every image you pin and every other pinner whose boards you follow, Pinterest will learn what you're looking for and try to show you variations on that theme. Feel free to gather ideas up willy-nilly and pin them as you find them, but do also go back and weed out your collections. Re-examine your pins to see what it is you like about them. Is it the wall color, the lighting, a piece of furniture, or the cat in the foreground? Use these ideas to drive your design choices as you go along. Now, as I said at the top, having good ideas is only half the battle. You also need to be able to keep track of them in a way that makes sense to you. You need to have a reference system so you can go back and find a thought you had months or years ago at need, and so that you can pull together all the ideas for a specific part of your project at will. Again, there is not a right way to do this. There's only the way that works for you. To help you think about this process, I'll share 2 planning and organizing tools that work well for me. The first is a paper system. You might even keep your ideas organized on loose leaf paper. Jot ideas down and then file them in a binder or system of folders. While this can work, I find it somewhat cumbersome. I personally use a single notebook planning system known as the bullet journal method for my personal, business, and remodel planning, and I've done so for over a year. The bullet journal concept was created by a man named Ryder Carroll. He developed it as a personal system for organizing his thoughts and tasks to combat and overcome his diagnosed learning disabilities. One day, a coworker asked him how he did it, and he showed them. Then more people. He created a YouTube video explaining it, and then wrote a book on the subject. Today, it is a recognized sensation with a thriving online community of devotees. If you Google the words bullet journal, or search for it in Pinterest, you will find a lot of over-the-top examples of people using it to create artistically decorated daily diary entries, or reproducing calendar layouts by hand. That's not what I'm talking about. At its most simple, the bullet journal system is a way to organize your plans, both large and small, in a way that lets you tackle them day by day and track them over large scales of time. Perfect for a remodeler. Carroll himself describes it as a personal productivity system married to a philosophy of mindfulness. He says the goal of the bullet journal is to help its practitioners live intentional lives, ones that are both productive and meaningful. The most effective way to learn the method is to check out Carroll's own introductory video. I have linked to it below this lesson. Give it a glance and see how it could work for you. To follow on, here are a few essential elements of how I use the system. I start each new journal, I'm now on my 4th, with a double-page index spread. After all, without the ability to type what you want into a search window, you have to be able to easily flip through and find what you were thinking about last week or 2 months ago. The index, literally page numbers for major collections at the front of the book, gets this done elegantly. I also use a future log, a list of upcoming months in 6 or 12-month windows, depending on your planning window, to place a note of upcoming events or tasks that aren't on my mind yet but will need to be addressed in the future. The monthly log has a calendar page and a task page that I can see what's upcoming in the month, or note what has happened, and keep a running list of big and small to-do items. Finally, the daily log is my to-do list and record of events. I use the first of 4 pages to overview the week, listing 3 major goals for the week and 3 for each day, running down the left-hand side of the page, and then on the right side of that first page, I list all the other things that ought to be accomplished during the week, transferring any items left over from previous weeks as I go. On the opposite page, I note the day and date that begin that day's task list. When the day is done, I make a few notes about how things went and how I could have done them differently, or note major events that happened and things I want to remember. In between these more calendar-oriented pages, there are an infinite variety of custom collections. I jot down sketches of areas I'm remodeling to work out building details, share ideas with a contractor, or have ready for reference. I use my bullet journal for the type of contractor contact log that I've included in the Google spreadsheets mentioned in the 3rd lesson. I prefer to jot down by hand when I speak to a subcontractor about what he or she says. Since I organize my whole life in the bullet journal, it becomes a natural place to track my remodeling goals and progress. I always have it handy, so it's easy to update and refer back to. However, I know this kind of paper record keeping is kind of a throwback behavior in a modern-day remodel. Perhaps for you it makes more sense to use a computer or a smartphone to keep your remodeling thoughts in line. To organize your ideas digitally, you can use any kind of online record-keeping system. You could simply have a file folder of Google Docs and spreadsheets shared between you, your spouse, and your design build team. You could jot ideas down in a basic phone notes app and search for them by keyword later, or you could use a dedicated planning app like Evernote, Google Keep, or Dropbox Paper. When my ideas are too complex or fluid for tracking on paper, I like to use Trello. Trello is based on a Japanese system known as Kanban, which bakes a series of tasks and moves them through different stages of a workflow. The most simple version is to do, doing, done. You list all the tasks in a project under the heading to do, and as you get to them, you move them into the doing heading, and when completed, to the done. As simple as that. It helps you to see what is still to do, make sure you don't have too much on your plate at any moment, and then visualize what you've accomplished. But you can also break it down into more steps. To use the Kanban idea to track a remodeling project, you might choose a system like this. Have a big idea pool to start. Create a next up to-do list, a list of things that need tools or supplies, a list of things that need outside input, a main doing column, a finishing up column, and a done. It will help you to prioritize the projects that you want to take on first, then keep track of things that are hung up on outside needs like having to make a supply run or needing an electrician to finish up. Breaking down the doing category into a main area for projects underway and one for items being finally finished up gives a little tweaking so that you can visualize your upcoming time and decide where you can throw your energy for best results. Again, see how this works for you. By the way, I mention all of this in relation to the Trello app, but you can use it just as easily with a blank wall and a series of post-it notes. To use Trello specifically, just sign up on the website Trello.com. Using it is free, although you can pay a small monthly fee for certain premium features. When you make a new board, you'll be prompted to add one or more lists by typing in the Add a List window, and then to add cards one at a time by typing anywhere it says Add a Card. Once you've created a card, you can click on it to open it up. You can change its name, fill in a description and a due date, attach other files or links, or create a checklist of items that fall within the overall card category. You can also label a card with a color or name to designate things like who will be doing the work or which subdiscipline it belongs to. Again, the internet has better tutorials than I can create on how to use Trello, but I recommend that you give it a try if it seems appealing to you. It really is up to you to find the tools and techniques which will suit you best. You'll want to create a system for finding and organizing your ideas that can handle all the complexity of your project without getting you tied in knots over technical details. Don't overthink this. If you're tech savvy, stick to tech. If you've always planned your life in a notebook, keep on going. Feel free to experiment with new ideas based on what I've said here, but in the end, do what works for you. Pop into the Facebook group and let me know what your preferred planning method is. All right, see you in the last video.